We're on the sofa with our very first guest. This is very exciting, guys.
I'm buzzing.
I'm nervous.
You know?
First guest. It's pressure.
No pressure.
It's intimidating. Honestly, it is.
We're going to have some fun with this one. We've already done an introduction, actually, John Wilkin.
Right.
So,
Well, John, I mean, as I said in the previous podcast, I've known you for a very long time, and I hope my introduction for you as business owner, entrepreneur, podcaster, presenter, and ex-Rugby League international does you justice.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that, isn't it? I think, everyone's individual story is really fascinating, but you're never as fascinated by your own, are you?
no.
So I would spend a lot of my time in company talking about other people's lives. I rarely, Nick, we just had a chat before we started this rarely talk about my life, So that's why when Nick asked me, I thought, actually, it's probably like, not that this is counselling or therapy.
It is. It's a bit like therapy, though, isn't it?
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, but I rarely speak about myself honestly, openly and candidly. I have to do that as a job, but I don't
Absolutely. What a way to have therapy on a podcast.
On a couch.
Well, yeah, exactly.
On an Origi Bianchi couch.
On an Origi Bianchi. On the Ruxley, baby.
What a comfortable Ruxley it is. It's
Don't fall asleep, will you?
I will try my very best not to.
Amazing. No, I think it's really fascinating because I often question my own story because I think the story that I tell about myself is the story that people will, consume. And so when I meet somebody for the first time, how I introduce myself is potentially how they're going to see me. And so I'm always thinking about that and potentially changing it or tweaking it here and there. So just with that in mind, 2024, John Wilkin, you might introduce yourself differently than you would have done in 2014. How would you introduce yourself right now?
Well, I think if sort of in such a sort of 10-year period of time, there's a few things to consider, really. One is I don't think I've ever really been comfortable about who I am.
Okay.
Do you know where that's leading? And that's not like a crisis, or it's not based in anything sinister.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, like I was, if we go right back to my childhood, so I grew up on a farm, pig farmer from Hull, lived an incredibly quiet, beautiful childhood in the countryside, and that was my sort of backstory. Academic, loved school, loved education, got my education, went to university. So that was always, if I go right back to the start, if I look back to when I was a kid, like, and I don't know if we connect with like what your plans were when you were a child. Like my aspiration was to go to university and get a degree.
Right.
It was never to be a sports. I'm like an accidental sports person.
Really?
So
is that like...
You are academic, John.
Yeah. I was an academic. Like I enjoyed school. And so then what happened then? And we talk about how I'd introduce myself now. So it's a very long-winded way of saying it. Is if I go back to that point, at that point, rugby and sport became part of my life.
Yeah.
And it was such an accidental thing. I had to bolt that onto myself and create this. It's almost like a fake veneer of a sports person around myself to fit in.
Right.
Because we do that. We in life. And Nick's probably one of the best I've ever known at being adaptable and moldable in situations. Like Nick, different hats for different cats. And I think at that stage in my life, it was like, right, well.
At that point, it was uncomfortable to do that. And was it your dad that got you into rugby?
Yeah, my dad. I think deep-rooted in my sort of character is wanting to impress my father, not because I felt like I didn't get attention from him, but because I think
that's natural. Yeah.
Subconsciously, I think.
Yeah, it's funny. On Sunday, went to Ollie's and I shared on YouTube, the John Wilkin testimonial video, which obviously I was proud to play a part, in your testimonial.
As chairman.
But you heard that video and it was talked about, his childhood. And,
the pig farm and
clothesline, Carol's clothesline.
Yeah, the washing line using that.
His posts and, but it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you think, like I said, the academic side, when you did join St Helens, particularly from Hull KR, a group of alpha males, winners, were you like the Graham Lasso of rugby league with your copy of The Guardian on the team bus?
Yeah.
Or was that difficult? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I spent so much time hiding myself, and that's why, you asked me to describe myself in 2024. I've never been more authentically myself than I am right now, right? And that's a challenge, because what happens is when you have a landmark thing in your life that people love to talk to you about, and I'm not stupid. The most interesting thing about me probably is that I played rugby league at the top level for a long time. For a lot of people, it's the least interesting thing for me about myself. Like
really?
the least interesting thing, and I almost.
That's fascinating.
Created this persona around sport, and it was never something I wanted. It was so unnatural for me. I'm like the.
So the persona that you created in sport was, I suppose, in rugby league, a tough guy, going out to battle, rough and ready. Whereas the academic John Wilkin is. There's a conflict between those two identities?
No, I think there's quite symbiotic. Like, you can be smart and tough.
Yeah.
You can be intelligent.
More so nowadays, though.
Yeah, but you can be academic and be ruthless and be volatile. Like, those things aren't like mutually exclusive in my eyes.
No.
But for me, it was more like I'm inherently like kind, compassionate, loving, quite soft emotionally. Not in I don't mean that in a
not traits that you'd associate with a rugby player.
But in the most brutal of environments, it's adapt or die, and like I had to summon up this like side of myself that I don't particularly like.
Okay.
I don't particularly like the side of myself, and it's still there. I've still got it in me.
Is it aggression, that? Or?
Yeah, and violence and
because everyone's got that fight or flight mechanism.
Yeah,
you had to tap into the fight side of it.
Yeah, and I this is why me and Nick became close friends, because in Nick, I found somebody who's closer aligned to who I felt I was, than the person that people thought I was.
Wow! So you felt you could relate so much to Nick.
Yeah, and I think without. This is obviously I'm a guest on your podcast, but the beauty of Nick, for me, has been reminding me of empathy, of compassion, of kindness, of taking time for people. And
he wasn't tactile before he met me,
Oh, Jesus Christ. For anybody who doesn't know, Nick Bianchi, my bum's never been caressed so softly by a man.
You get out a paddle.
Memorable.
Just a little, the pat. Just a little
paddle
pat.
Yeah.
Well done.
The nod.
Yeah.
We need that on a t-shirt, the paddle pat.
Yeah.
Paddle pat.
Do the paddle pat.
On the back of the tee.
Yeah, just a small pattern on your bottom where it's left an imprint. I think
it's like the
Nick Bianchi
Wilson and
Good
Castaway.
paddle player, by the way, John Ollie. I mean, you played with him,
We
didn't you?
played, yeah. Love a bit of paddle.
I don't think I'm a good paddle player.
I looked on Play Tomic. We've had 63 matches in common.
Wow.
You and I played very well together.
We do, yeah.
You know instinctively the shot I'm going to play.
We need to get some of the behind-the-scenes footage of this so the listener can actually see it. So,
but actually, interesting on that, paddle is where the side of me I don't like does come out.
Oh, okay. Competitive then.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, and feisty and sharp-tongued and
acerbic.
Yeah. And it sort of serves you well. And I get it. Like the world's a ruthless place, so you need to be cutting and sharp at times, and you need to be ruthless at times.
You don't see that with sports people.
I know you're
gonna say
we're thinking the same thing.
I know exactly.
I know exactly. So first of all, you don't like that side of yourself, but does that make you dislike the sport at all, or not?
No, but I don't dislike the sport. No, I love the brutality of sport, and I'm attracted to it. In as much as everybody's mesmerised by, as much as we want to sugarcoat life and whatever, we're mesmerised by violence. And like the things that trend highly in rugby league are violent things. It's aggressive things. And when people ask me about my career in sport, it's not about finesse. It's not about skill. It's not about intellect. It's not about my ability to break down a game and analyse a game tactically or understand a game in depth. It's the violence.
Right.
And probably the ones that get the most hits on YouTube are the big hits by Adrian Morley or Paul Sculthorpe and big RL hits.
Yeah, on that as well, Nick.
NRL
I think the most watched clip on rugby league is a teammate of mine in the 2014 Grand Final, Lance O'Hire, knocked out on the floor, completely cold. And Ben Flower, king hitting him whilst he's unconscious, hits him on the floor, red card 3 minutes into the game. Still to this day, the most watched clip from UK rugby league. So like we can talk about like sport as but deep down we have to get to like the human condition is what do we like? We and I think people are attracted to violence.
Controversy,
I'm attracted.
drama.
Yeah, I'm attracted to the drama of sport. Like I love sport, but it's not that. the side of me I dislike is how it makes me.
Right.
It's not the sport.
It's not the you want to be, or the you that you feel you are in your soul.
It's unnatural for me.
Right.
I'm acting, you know, and it's tiring. And I spent 16 years acting. You know?
Being a gladiator.
Yeah, and it took a lot of emotional, mental energy to
Were you?
fake
I was
it.
at a sporting lunch the other week, and I sat next to Mark Wright, not the
Towie.
Not Towie Mark.
I don't think which reality show.
Mark and Michelle.
The tall ginger one who.
The tall ginger one.
That played for England.
The tall ginger one who played for England.
And he was talking about characters in the 1990 Italia 90 dressing room in England, and he was talking about there was leaders, and he was talking about Terry Butcher banging the wall. What were you like in the dressing room? John, as a leader, because you are a leader.
Yeah, I think I wasn't.
Love that.
I wasn't. But I think to be in sport, and this is why, you know, I'd encourage any young person to be involved in sport, because it's a dynamics of a group, like a group of people, like, and we exist in groups of people. You at Arrigis, and what you do, Ollie, we are
like tribes.
Inevitably in groups. So what sport is an unbelievable grounding in the dynamics of a group. And the higher up in sport you get, the more like cutting that dynamic is. But I always found a way to fit, you know. And my longevity in sport was based upon me thinking, like, I thought about that. It wasn't an accident. Like, I went into a dressing room full of stars and thought, right, I'm not as good as them. What do I need to be good at? I need to work really hard. I need to try. I need to care. I need to develop that side of myself so they can rely upon me, because they're stars. Like, they don't need me.
You don't want to let them down.
I was like selflessly doing things for them all the time.
Like,
you know?
the Domestique and a Tour de France
It's a
cycling team.
Well, topical. A great example is that selfless attitude in team sports is what I thought. Right, I can control that. So straight away, I'm like 17. And I'm thinking I need to get really fit, which I did. I need to do all the little things really well, which I did. And I need to be selfless in my approach to how I play, not seek gain for myself within games, within the context of a big game. So
you wouldn't be one, if you scored a try, suddenly turn to the crowd and point with your fingers and say, Wilkin,
is this where Nicky rolling a clip of me doing that?
No. No. In fact, that try gets the one at, I was going to say Cardiff Arms Park, but it's not. It's the Welsh Stadium when you went through for the...
Oh, gosh. No, you mean it was at Twickenham?
Was that
oh no!
You know the one.
Yeah. I didn't score many.
No, you just threw the ball in the air. There's no cover. We're here to make you shine. We're not here to kind of.
And that comes through in the testimonial video that we watched. Really inspiring. I think I'd recommend anyone watch that. We could put the link into the show notes. But it shows how much you valued that. The club, and you talked a lot about the club and everybody involved at the club, and you obviously felt a part of that family, and everything that you were doing was for the club and not for the ego and for yourself.
Just to recap, I'm doing a bit of a Rory Stewart here, but in 2012, John was granted by the RFL, the rugby football, the body, a testimonial. Typically, if you spend 10 years at the same club, you get the RFL grant you a testimonial. And it's just a chance for you to celebrate that, and it's also a chance to kind of earn some money as well. And but the way, when John asked me if I can just bring on,
of course, contact,
because I really wanted you to see that video, because that defines a lot of John, was how previous testimonials were done in rugby league. It was a bit of a back of a fag packet in a pub. Oh, there's a golf day. I think it's 200 quid in cash. You know, whereas this was so well thought out. He put together a really good, and I'm not putting myself in that, but a really good committee.
You organised it.
Rich Matthias, the legal eagle. We had Mick Denning locally, you know, a really good guy. Neil Bamber doing the accounting. Sue Matthias, who Rich and I were talking off air the other day, and she was the doer, wasn't she? Which you need. And this, and Jonesy, of course, from the Griffin in Eccleston. And this committee was just, we all know what we think what good looks like, but John was leading that. So all the events that we did had a corporate partner, whether it was a Johnny Vegas comedy night, whether it was a golf day at the Mere, sponsored by Magners, whether it was a race day sponsored by... it was all so professional. And that, I think, you set the tone for the likes of James Roby, that is now the blueprint, isn't it? The launch night we did with Fraser Dainton, I spoke about
Amazing.
It was really, but that comes all from John.
Yeah, but I think also like when you have a testimonial year, it's sort of chance to celebrate a career in sport. And the weird thing is that came well before I finished. You know what I mean? It's almost like a chance to reflect on something that's done, and it wasn't done. But amazing the help. And I think back to that, and I think again, pouring champagne on Nick, is he at that time drove from Cheshire to St Helens probably an hour, maybe once a week, twice a week, voluntarily to help organise events for me like that. It was mental.
It was such
It's mental in a world when it's hard to get people to
Yeah.
Do you know the gesture of that, Nick?
Well, the belief he has in you and the support.
Friendship.
The friendship,
It's unconditional, isn't it? And we had good times on the testimonial
it
as
was
well.
a hoot, wasn't it?
I think you really want to talk to, when we're talking about the business side of it, obviously that's always appealed to you, interested you. I mean, we could go on for hours. John set up a players' union while playing.
Right.
That in itself is a hugely thing to break away from the GMB union.
It was a learning curve.
It was a learning. Right. It's a learning. Life's a learning. Isn't
Life,
it?
University of life.
He was doing. Well, saying John was doing that. I mean, like I say, it's we could do about 3 series with John. But when obviously.
Can I share a testimonial story?
Okay.
Before
That's what it's all about.
No, but
there's no rules.
Stories.
No, but anybody who knows Nick, so Nick's got an unbelievable way with words, and there's certain Bianchi-isms, which I would say for people who
That's mad that you said that, because I've got that in my notes. Bianchi-isms. They're actually worded like that.
Right. So can I share my Bianchi-ism?
Oh, baby, you didn't even need to raise this.
My testimonial year. Is we were talking about, we had the nuts and bolts of an event together, but it was missing something. And so instead of sort of articulating like that, is Nick's way of expressing it, and it sticks with me and I use it to this day, is we've got the sausage, we just need to make it sizzle.
That's going to make a comeback.
We've got to do that.
But that's going to make a comeback.
How do we make something like
better?
sizzle? We've got the product.
Yeah.
We did some great events.
The podcast is set up. It's on Spotify. We've just got to make it sizzle now. And we got our first sausage right here.
It's not sizzling. It's not sizzling yet. It's
sizzling.
Raw, uncooked sausage.
It's in its raw format. We had some good times, but one thing, the Tower of London, I mean, it's all about sport and connections, and this is what we're all connecting. One of the 13 beefeaters, the Yeomans of the Guard, massive St Helens fan, massive.
So weird that, isn't it?
Yeah,
strange,
isn't it? Amazing.
A John Wilkin fan, a St Helens fan,
specific.
He facilitated this wonderful behind-the-scenes, non-eBay. You can just buy that off the website. To have the Tower of London to yourself, a private viewing of the Crown Jewels, a pint or a couple, or Neil probably had a few more in the Beefeaters mess, the bar.
Yeah.
Walk down to for dinner, private dinner at the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers, which is where they're stationed, the oldest regiments.
Just to context, you can't do this.
I was just going to say, that is not something anyone can do.
You could be the wealthiest person in the world. You cannot do this.
What an experience. How did that come about in the first place?
That's what I said. It's through the Beefeater. One of the.
But did he write to you or what?
No.
He was a St Helens fan, so he used to come to the games, and he knew one of the guys on the committee. But do you remember Steve telling us this story? He is a seriously trained Marine, right? And he's like top of the top of the top. Wow. So as their final sort of posting, they get put onto the Tower of London. So he's been in combat. He's been in serious combat and deep into combat. Yeah. And he said now he's at the Tower of London and there's tourists taking pictures of him. Kids are like pulling on his buttons. He stood there with a bayonet in his head. They have no idea.
Well, I could do right now.
That's no idea.
But it is. I mean, it's a real ceremonial. I guess it's been given. I don't know, being ambassador in Washington or something. It's a big ceremony.
Oh, it's huge, yeah.
But you have to have served to be a Yeoman of the Guard, a Beefeater. But it's through his love of St Helens and connections that we got this ridiculous,
anything can happen,
amazing experience. And that was John's testimony. But I just really want to kind of work on the PKB story, which is such a wonderful story. And now. There's no prompting. It's like people know PKB, but your friendship with Mark started, and my friendship with Mark Flanagan Flash when he joined from Australia in 20, was it the
14, 13, 13,
well,
12,
we set
12,
PKB up
yeah.
in 2014.
Yeah.
But obviously, he was playing down in Australia. He came back. You obviously forged a brilliant friendship. And when did the coffee concept or the coffee shop come?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's can I just final point on the Tower of London?
Yeah,
is I'm still.
It's a podcast, not a radio show. We've got no advert.
I'm still. I know you're trying to move me on, Nick,
yet.
but can we? I want to seal this.
Please.
This is a topic, right?
We leave no stone unturned.
On my toilet wall above my toilet. So every morning,
when you're having ablution,
I do my ablutions. We'll sit down, and I get to read the toast from the Tower of London, which is it's basically about my career and the number of queens that were beheaded at the Tower of London. What? So it's quite topical when you sat down in the morning on the toilet. And another one.
Do you know what though? I mean, again, because you said at the beginning you never really talk about yourself, but isn't it nice we're just reflecting on that? We probably never sat down and had a meal and really reflected. I have to Rich Mathias and Sue about it, but probably never fully with you. And it wasn't, as much as John's saying that the journeys over to St Helens and stuff were, on a Thursday afternoon raining or something, but it was.
Nick's really painting a dim picture.
But we had fun. It was good times.
Yeah,
it was good. But go back to
because
obviously our listeners, want to learn about the entrepreneur of John Wilkin, the entrepreneurship of John Wilkin, the business idea, because it's such a fascinating story.
Yeah, I think it'd be, well, if we go back to the context of me playing rugby and not really feeling like that's my natural habitat, I never felt like that was home. Mm-hmm. It was somewhere where I was. Yeah. But when I was in that space, it's almost harder to get out of it because people love it. Like my parents loved me because I played sport. Everybody's like, "Wow, you're at Wembley. You're playing, 80,000 people. Wow!" And it's like it's impossible to get off that treadmill once you're on it.
Right?
Like, do you know as much as we talk about like whatever in life, like about pivoting and changing, try pivoting out of sport.
I remember
the toughest one.
No, but John, it's so. I remember. I'm just thinking now. With Hawley, Clubber and Barks, went to watch you at Wembley against Australia in 2013 or so, 2012.
But try getting
80,000.
Even I was happy playing. I'm not saying I was unhappy and I wanted to stop playing rugby, but what I'm getting to is that while I was playing, I was hyper aware this wasn't where I belonged.
Right.
And I was in it, but I wanted to have. And when I listened to the first podcast for you guys, the thing that struck me is about everybody in life is. Well, actually not everybody. Some people in life can be incredibly comfortable and plot a course and just go in a straight line. And I respect them. And I'm so envious of those people who can just go, I am somebody who's like, you went to Ampleforth with, they said, right, I'm going to be a doctor, train, doctor for 50 years, retire.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like that blows my tiny mind that somebody can do that. Yeah. Because I would imagine none of us are like that.
Definitely not.
No, I'm not. No, I can't settle. I'm always, I like to think that I'm always evolving and creating new opportunities and new things.
Yeah, and I think that's where the business sort of side of me started. It wasn't business. It could be anything. It could be reading. It could be like I was wanting to expand like my purpose in life through opportunities. So in 2008, I set up a food and drink business with Ian Barker. That's what really started it. And I was living with my house. I lived in Warrington while I was playing at St Helens, and my house became somewhat of like a heartbreak hotel. So people from failed relationships came to stay with me. Yeah, I was like triage for people. So they came and
Nick's was raised.
Thankfully, Nick wasn't one of those.
No, but it's like
my door's always open.
It's therapy. I will just say, between 2010 and 2012. 15 Beachfield Road on the edge.
I was thinking that actually. You can both relate.
Mine and Nick's houses became safe spaces for waifs and strays.
Yeah.
So Ian Barker was one of those waifs and strays.
Berkshire waif and stray.
Yeah, beautiful fella, like salt of the earth guy, but ambitious. Like blindly. I'm way more ambitious than he probably should be. He ideas.
Right.
He's one of those guys. When you meet somebody who's done something in their life and they can't get away from it. Well, he travelled around America when he was like 21, and all of these ideas were still in his mind, but he didn't have the capital to go and do it. Right. So me and Barks got together. We started a food and drink business, which is
so he was quite infectious for you and inspired you a lot.
massive influence on me.
Yeah.
Huge, yeah.
Before we get to what I did,
No, I can see that with Barks.
Ian, who is, you know, when you talk about mentors in life, you always expect like these huge characters like that sort of influence you in like a profound way. Well, Ian's, you know, enthusiasm and entrepreneurship imprinted on me, and it was through him I saw a vehicle of getting away from where I was.
So was your motivation to have an identity out of sport, or was it to have your own business?
I think probably the identity. You know?
Right, more so.
Yeah.
Who am I outside of this?
Yeah, and money. I don't care about money.
Right.
Like I
I'm the
do
same.
not give a shit about money. Like money's like, and I should.
I say the same about myself.
I should. I should care about money, but I don't. And it's easy to say that if you've got a bit. I get that.
Yeah.
I'm not like on the bread line.
Yeah.
So I can easily sit back and there'll be people who don't have money who go, well, yeah, it's easy to say that because you've got some.
You've got that. You've got your Sky Sports gig.
Well, I'll put it this way: I've never had to care about money, and that's not a flamboyant thing to say. I'm just saying.
You've just done what you're good at, and the rest takes care of itself.
And that's where I will duck back to sport and say that's what sport gave me.
Yeah.
The freedom to make choices and choose
the
what
security,
I want.
the freedom.
Yeah, and I wanted to maybe create an identity away from that.
Yeah.
And business. Like how good, like we're all in business.
Yeah,
like,
it's fun.
Isn't it?
Obviously.
I love the interaction with the staff and the people and the customers as well. That's what.
Yeah,
really
I love seeing that. I get a real sense of that when I'm in here, and you know, you're on first name terms with everybody. You know stuff about them. It's that energy, and that's kind of my background from like the chocolate shop when we had the place in Wilmslow. I just love people coming in. Oh, it smells amazing, and I'd be like, oh, this is a new chocolate. Try that one, and you get to know the regulars, and then you got people that have never been before, and then I think as well, it's that appreciation. You get people coming in and sort of, oh, this place is amazing, and you sort of forget when you're in it yourself, but when somebody else comes in and compliments, it's like, oh yeah, actually, I'm lucky here.
The name on the door, like done, or you really can affect change, and all the experiences of traveling and seeing really how great is done.
Yeah,
and knowing that you can do it. It's not like we've got a head office in Milton Keynes.
You've got that creativity.
Yeah.
So if I want to see, and there's a customer, and I'm speaking to, and they just said, "Oh, just take the rug home."
Yeah.
That's trusting. It's
Try
like our customer's our friend, but I can do that. I don't think you could do that at a multiple.
No, but then, like I do a lot of reading about business and I read a lot about people in business, and if anybody who's listening to this gets the opportunity, listen to or read content from James Timpson.
Right.
Like James Timpson and like his style of management is very much akin to what you two are talking about.
Yeah.
Is the benefits of being an owner operator. If you can imprint that upon your staff, like it's like exponential, the opportunity to create great experiences. So James Timpson, because he was
it's crazy because
he's a family.
Sorry, John, can we just interject here? Because we were talking, it's marvellous, and I think it's a wonderful example. We were only talking in the last episode about people delving into uncharted territories. And of course, last Friday, Sir Keir Starmer appoints his new cabinet. Who's the prisons and probation minister? ...
Yep.
James Timpson.
Yep.
And yet he's from a family of key cutters and... Sorry. That's why Ollie and I have just been looking at each other because we mentioned James Timpson. But you're talking about his style of management.
Well, his management style, upside down management, is that he went into different key cutting shops and as a young guy in a family business. And because he was family, he could make decisions. You know, like he could go, well, have this for half price, take this.
Yeah.
You know, I'll do this for nothing. And lo and behold, every site that he was in, like, started to turn profit. Sales grew huge, and he was like, "Well, how do I then create an opportunity? Which the opportunity we all have here is we get that chance to have that experience. We're owner operators.
Yeah,
you know, the names above the door, like you said.
Yeah,
and that seduces me so much.
Yeah,
about business.
Yeah,
is that you can make decisions that directly make somebody have a great time.
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
Like magic.
Your customers, your staff.
Which you and Mark can do in PKB, and you can set these private events up and, you know, even do the wonderful things. I was just laughing or speaking to Ollie. So PKB, in many aspects, you know, such a success story that you and Mark have done. But in 2015, December the 6th, I used with the help of you and Sophie and Mark and Fran, it's the use of your balcony to propose to Jeanette.
Oh yes, you did. Yeah. I mean, that's we've still got an invoice in for that. Not settled. Settled.
So it's we were just on your website the other day, and it's like, down under, up north. I think that's so great because obviously you're doffing the cap to the Antipodean culture, which is so brilliant on coffee. But it's not. Coffee's just one part of PKB. I think your catchline. Let me try and remember it. Try and take it. Booze, brew, brunch. Is another B.
Forgot the big one.
Bakes, brews, brunch. And what the hell was
we are going to move away from that, just so you know. Key
marketing. And phenomenal Sunday lunches. And I took my Italian friends to your Angel Gardens when were the Pet Shop Boys playing in Manchester, whenever that was. They flew over
1986.
No. They flew about whenever it was, about 3 weeks ago. And they absolutely loved it. But I know your Sunday lunches are brilliant. But no, going into it, was it? Ollie and I were speaking before. Do you think being a successful sports and having that sports mentality, and in fact, you mentioned it on your podcast, your latest podcast, On the Bench with Jenna, about being part of a really successful team, that losing was not an option. Do you remember that bit there? With Philbin? You were talking about St Helens, comparing it to your latter part of your career, your swan song at Toronto, where maybe some of your teammates didn't have that mindset, criticism. Do you think that helped you and Mark in your journey with PKB in 2014 when you set it up?
Yeah, I think people are always interested in like the links between sport and business, aren't they? And life.
Absolutely.
And like, is there a link sometimes?
Yeah.
And
the mindset.
I always remember going and watching. I think it was Sean Fitzpatrick, the All Black. The All Black hooker.
Yeah.
And he was doing an after dinner speech, and he did this long rambling speech, and at the end of it he tried to connect it to business, and he goes, "That's very much like business." And I listened to it all and thought, what are you talking about?
Really?
Like, none of what you've said is about business. You've tried to lazily compare a career in sport to business, where you go, what, you have to be disciplined, therefore you're good at business. You have to be committed, therefore you're good at business. Yeah, all of these things, like life skills, make you good at business. If anything, sport, what did it teach me? To turn up when it's tough, not turn up when it's good.
Right.
Not be great not be great when things are good, when you've got a wind in your sails. Be great when it's bad. When you're in the trenches, be good.
That resilience.
Yeah, resilience and toughness. And like, I know I've bled. I've had 18 surgeries. I've had my nose broken, shoulder dislocated. Wow. Like, you have to kill me to stop me.
Yeah.
Can Compton do a close-up of his hand or something?
Oh no, that's this one. That one.
Sorry, Compton.
That one. Yeah.
He's got the war wounds.
No, yeah, but that gives you a backstop. It's like, I know where my limits are. It explores your limits.
Sport. And just out of interest, when you talk about like aggression in sport, does that come into business? Because I don't think for you lead with love, don't you? You tend to everything you do in your business is with compassion, love, excitement, and just passion to make people happy, which is like me and Nick as well. Like so you would say absolutely no,
absolutely no, and that's the harshest. You talk about like, if I strictly applied, like I'm a foodie.
Oh. You and Frank.
And I hate when people say foodie and they don't mean it. They mean they like going out for food. I'm not talking that. Like, I'm talking about, I'm interested in like the pH of soil, what the vegetables are growing. Yeah. Right. Wow. I want the best of the best of the best ingredients.
Absolutely.
Like, but I'm not.
You're authentic on that. 100%.
Yeah. Like, I'm not food. I'm obsessed with where food comes from, how it's grown, how it's my DNA. I'm a farmer.
Yes.
So I'm a foodie. That's my background. So that's why, food and drink. Wow. That's why PKB is, it's not just sports people used to open pubs, didn't they? Or,
yes.
Like we're going to a pub. Like mine was, based on food and drink.
Oh, I like where we're going with this now.
Yeah.
Because I like as well, and you've toured Australia as well, because this whole thing is such a part of the DNA with PKB, the fact, down under, up north, and you obviously have, on travelling with Great Britain or England, you've been to Australia. You must have admired their culture. Then with Mark as well, playing down there, living down there.
Yeah, I'd say Mark led the business.
He led the business.
And he very much does to this day. But you were talking about the warmth, kindness, compassion that I sort of lead with. And I was going to go really David Brent and go trust, reward, loyalty, satisfaction.
It might be
know what I
cliche,
mean?
but it's true.
No, but my way of I think at any point in my life, I've known where I'm not good. Like, I know when I need people around me who can do things.
So you're saying you delegate the stuff that you're either not good at or you don't want to do, and focus on what you do?
I'm attracted to people who can do the things I can't, you know?
Yeah, and that's
I think bad leadership is recruiting in the image of yourself.
Right.
Or bad leadership is recruiting people who are much less competent than you for some sort of ego power trip. Like, for me, I take mega joy from, we've got 100, like say 100 staff now.
Is that what you've got a head count now, is 100 staff?
And,
wow.
and in that, there's just a vast array of skills that I don't have. And then the next part is trusting them to get on with it. And that's the challenge. And when you try and apply a sport, right, a sports mentality, brutal feedback, right? On the spot feedback, right? No uncertain terms. You don't do this, you're out. Like, can you imagine Gen Z now? Like, it just doesn't work. Like, so me brutally
Mental
applying sport into business is mental, like, because it's just, it would create such a toxic environment. So a really, again, a long-winded way to go back to Sean Fitzpatrick and, you know, whether sport applies to business.
Is that the sport of yesteryear mindset versus business today, or like, in other words, sport now? Is it different? Have you got that kind of reluctancy to be harsh against players? Is there more compassion? You know, Gen Z.
I was just about to say, was the dressing room debriefs, honest conversations, different in 2004 to 2020? And your last, with Brian, was it? Who's the coach?
Brian McDermott,
Brian Mac.
So, my debut at Hull Chaos was in 2099. You know, Y2K, you know what I mean?
Y2K.
When everyone thought the world was going to end because the binary, when everyone thinks going to
Cost
crash.
us a lot of money.
I mean, and at that stage, there was a guy called Paul Fletcher playing for OKR, and he was like a gnarly old pro. He was like mid-30s. He'd seen it all, smoked, drank, you know, old school.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm attracted to old school. Like, I like it. I'm not against it. I think there's a place for old school in the new world as well, by the way. But he was like, right, what are you doing? And I had a kit bag, and in it I had pasta and water and all these things. And he's like, get that off. He said, go down there, you buy yourself a crate of Budweiser. First game, I had to go and buy a crate of Budweiser because we were drinking it after the game and took it on the bus. Right. Now, I had no idea this was, you know, it's only like retrospective analysis of that situation. I went, wow, that was weird. Do you know what I mean?
Good weird or weird?
Weird. And then I want to contrast that. To, I was commentating for the BBC on a Challenge Cup game in France, south of France, St Helens Catalan. Challenge Cup game, beautiful, like amazing trip out there. There was no flights back. St Helens said, would you like to come on our plane? They'd chartered a plane, come back on our plane. Obviously, I'm familiar, know all of the guys. And could I put you in that situation in 2004? There would have been 20 bottles of red wine rolling around the floor as it banked into land. We would have been straight off that plane, straight to the boozer. You know, all of that, right? And I'll give you this as just a really sort of clean way of analysing where sports come to. Is I peered over the seat in front of me, and two of the lads were colouring in.
No way.
Oh wow, therapeutic colouring in. Like that mindfulness.
Wow.
And I'm not saying.
No, you're not judging it, but that's just a contrast.
That's like a real contrast, isn't it?
Contrast where obviously booze was prevalent. It was like.
So then you talk about coming. We were all of a similar age. Maybe Nick is.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah, we're all of a similar age, but
you and Ollie are. I'm a senior pro.
We're in a beautiful part where we've seen the old. We've lived the social media thing. And now we're seeing the output from the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, we've lived through it, and that has, you know, taught me so much.
From a leadership point of view, management,
I wouldn't want to be just brought up in this era.
No.
Nor would I want to just exist in the.
Actually, it makes me feel better about the fact that I'm turning 40 this year, and I agree with you. I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
I think we're blessed to have seen so many changes in culture. Life is just social media. We've seen the old school and lived that.
Well, I of the generation where Lovely hearing in the background. Some
I like the
customers
atmosphere.
here.
It's great.
Quite, it was like Johnny's on the bench. You know,
Upsell.
No, upsell.
Get an
Try and
upsell.
That's it.
No, I wonder what they're like.
Should we get them on?
They're after this one.
Yeah.
They're after this couch.
Get them on the sofa.
Unfortunately,
They're off to the Ruxley.
they're after the
Are they?
Ruxley.
Do you think?
This is a very comfortable
need to
couch.
move.
Well, when you've got the first guest of your stature, John,
Right.
Jonathan David Wilkin, it's
Yeah.
important. Can we do? Listen, the good thing about podcast is we're not governed by like.
It's like John said before. We can do what we want, can't we?
Yeah, it's not like the Today program where you got to queue in for sports and you got.
You got somebody in my ear telling me to hurry up.
With John and Sky Sports, like. Do you want to do that clip of John? Because
Oh,
you loved
yes,
that,
okay.
didn't you?
So,
just give some
yeah,
context, John. Do you want to,
But this, you see the clip that I think it is. This
Yeah.
is very much old school.
okay.
Me.
Yeah.
You know, this is not me.
Yeah. This is interesting then, just to
Yeah.
get
So just
your
to-
hot take on this.
Yeah,
when
Okay,
we-
just to do a recap, John is
Yeah.
a senior co-commentator and presenter on Sky Sports for all the rugby.
Yes,
league.
that's right, yeah.
Okay, so this was John at half-time in a
Yeah.
Warrington game versus
Hull?
Salford, was it, or Hull?
I
think it was Hull.
Yeah.
Full time. Might
And
have
there
been
was,
full time.
this is to
Oh,
give
yeah,
some
half-time,
context, it's a refereeing decision.
Yes.
Okay.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Blowingly bad decision. And you're right, it's damaging. Because what do I want to talk about here, Brian? I want to be at half-time. I want to be talking about Hull FC's young players, Brian, who've come to Warrington against Sam Burgess's men and put in a performance that they should be proud of. But we can't talk about that because of the way that send-off has impacted the game. There's about 10 to 12 genuine contacts with the head. Now, that was the least ferocious, the least obvious of all of them, and he gets sent. Come on. Come on.
Break.
I do love
Break.
Brian Carney, my colleague. I got him that riled up that he called the advertising break before it was due. It was about 20 seconds to fill after that, where we
Just stood
just
there.
after that. But we had it was a bit of small
I love
talk,
the way
like,
John's like, come on.
just a bit
Yeah,
of tumble
come on.
around.
It just
Did
goes, break.
Ollie,
Oh,
what were you
brilliant.
saying before John arrived about that clip? You could listen to that.
Oh, honestly, like that, watching that, the passion that you
Yeah.
you spoke so powerfully, and I could just listen to that clip every morning with my coffee to get me going. I don't need my Eminem and Kanye. I'll just stick John Wilkin on instead.
Just can you imagine the dulcet Hull, the flattened vowels?
Put a beat behind it.
When I get passionate, it'll become
Yeah.
more Hull.
And
Right.
you're very, very good at it, and you enjoy doing it. When what retains the passion for doing it, when you're driving up to Hull, as it was Catalans last Friday, when you're driving up the M62, is it you've still got that passion for it? And
Yeah, I think because I spent such a long time doing something, you create a value, don't you? And I've got a value there, and
Big
now
time.
I'm capitalising on the value.
Brilliant.
If I was independently wealthy and didn't need to do it, I wouldn't do it.
Right. Okay.
but
you know-
created
What
that
do you
value.
do that you love the most right now in your life, in your week?
It's a great question.
It's a
that.
brilliant question.
Yeah, like I get excited about everything to do with our bakery. So you talked about we've got a cafe business. So Mark Flanagan obviously inspired me. Came back from Australia,
Absolutely.
extolling like the virtues of cafe culture in Australia. Probably the only good thing to come out of Australia, but we'll put that to one side. Yeah, and so we set up the cafe business. That evolved then into a bakery business
Yeah.
naturally, really organically. We
Brilliant.
needed more bread and pastries, and so we started to bake ourselves.
Yeah.
And so what gives me the most enjoyment is I predominantly spend my week in and around my bakers, in and around the drivers,
Right.
and that gets me going.
That's
you know?
you amongst it, isn't
And
it?
Yeah.
that's authentic. John's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 2
Early
a.m.
starts.
No,
Yeah.
2 a.m. I mean, there's early start. We were here 7:30 setting up.
Yeah.
That's
will,
early, right?
Yeah, I will say that's not happening now. That was very much a period of
Setting
time.
it all up.
Yeah, I'm less in early now.
But it doesn't take away the fact that you are completely dedicated to the bakery so where is that at the minute, and where are you going? It's half dozen. Other is the
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah, I mean, like I said about produce, I'm interested in produce. Now,
Yeah.
a cafe is taking a lot of produce and putting it together on a plate for people and
Yeah.
coffee and drinks, and it's complicated, and the soft drinks and
Right.
all of that. And I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the hospitality side of it. It's about making a great experience, because as we all, great food and drink experiences are
Yeah.
really memorable.
Oh, fantastic.
But it's like perfection by reduction. So like I understood that I enjoyed that, but I wanted to get back to the start of like, and I think probably a nod to my family of farming is the most raw form of produce, isn't it? You from nothing to something.
The process that
Right. So we start from nothing and sell you a loaf.
That's what I'm
day.
obsessed with. Creating something out of nothing.
It didn't exist.
And then a reaction from
That's
that,
you,
and a
Ollie.
business from that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, and that's the same with you with chocolate. It's like you start with something, nothing, make something and sell it.
It's like it didn't exist 20 minutes ago. Now it's there. The chocolate smash is there, and you're providing an experience.
You and John are so creative. I just talk to people.
I can't wait to collab with John. We're going to do something.
Are you going to do a collab?
Oh,
Have
yes.
you not collabed yet?
This is like what I always say, everything leads to something. And we'll get into the quotes and the NB-isms. But one of my things is everything leads to something. And being sat here right now, we've spoken about doing a collab of some kind, not necessarily knowing what it's going to be, but I'm sure that this is like part of that
For sure,
momentum. So
and that's I think innovation, entrepreneurship, and you know, that's like creation is like the key in it, you know.
I think that's what we're all here to do.
But Nick talks himself down, like, you just talk to people. Nick, you create environments, you create communities. Like, for people who listen, is like who know Nick will understand this. Wherever Nick exists, a community exists around him. Yeah. And the glue that often holds that community together is Nick. Yeah. I've yet to know him be the thing that breaks things apart, you know?
Yeah.
He brings 100%. Everything together. It's paddle.
So good at that.
And I try and bring
you connect the dots so well.
That intro is, I guess what I try and bring is the energy and the passion and enthusiasm to this place, to wherever I go. Obviously, paddle is so close to my heart.
Well, that's creation.
It's art.
It is creation.
Yeah.
It is.
So you're making something that didn't exist. Paddle community didn't exist. Nick's created it. So we talk about, like, you might look at me and Ollie and think we're mad entrepreneurial people, like innovating all the time.
Yeah.
You innovate with your comms, like on a daily basis.
Exactly.
Which is good. Like,
well, it's good therapy, this, isn't it? Do you know what I
mean? It is for us all, isn't it?
I tell you what, we had a lot of comments on episode 1. Fed back to us on DM on Instagram and voice notes, voicemails, and I can't believe you voice noted John Wilkin, by the way.
Oh yeah. Nick said John doesn't voice note. I can't believe you voice note.
But he'd already done it.
I'd done it.
It just sounds so stubborn, that, doesn't it? That I don't voice note.
It's not for everyone.
No, I'm not a massive fan of it.
Yeah.
But I'm also not a judge either. Like, if you want to voice note me, voice note me.
That is fine.
Video note.
I often apologise to people and say, sorry, it's a voice note. I'm always on the go. And sometimes it helps me to articulate it a bit better than I can type it. Yeah. Quicker for sure.
But if you come from a background of team sports, when you press play on that, that could be anything.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. You give me the nod.
So you'd be reluctant as to where you are. Can I play this?
If I had headphones in, it's getting played. If there's not headphones in,
I'll wait till I'm on my own.
Oh yeah, and then so just think, when you send me a voice note, if anybody sends me a voice note, you've got to imagine me trying to find a small darkened room to go and listen to it.
Right?
So what's convenient for you, Ollie?
I know that's true. Actually, you might not be able to listen. Yeah, that's true.
But just going back to the first episode, one of the things I mentioned was, because it linked to Ollie and the chocolate smash, but was the door knocker moment.
Yes,
And a lot of people have come back to me and said that's, really inspiring and thoughtful, and it's made me think about possible things.
That's
I want you to tell the story about, for me, a John Wilkin door knocker romantic moment, and if perhaps you'd like to elaborate on that. And I'll just set the scene, and then you take over, John. Was the 26? He's married to the lovely Fran Halsall, Fran Wilkin, but Fran, amazing swimmer, 4-time Olympian, and she competed at 4 Olympics, but she competed at the 2016 Rio Olympics. And John, obviously during his career, during the season, went over for 2 nights, one night to Brazil. Would you mind sharing that story?
Well, yeah, it was obviously the 2016 Olympics was going on. I was in the middle of a rugby season with St Helens. Quite difficult sort of watching that unfold and not being there. Obviously, you want to support the people who are around you, and it was so natural for me to, from a distance, try and support or watch. So I played a game on a Friday night. The Olympic 50-metre freestyle final in Rio was on the Saturday evening, early evening. So I played the game on the Friday night, drove down to London, boarded a plane, 14-hour flight to Rio, 2.5 hours in a taxi from
That was
Rio.
with Stuart Holmes, wasn't it?
Yeah,
With Holmesy, yeah.
Stuart Holmes was a sponsor at St Helens.
Okay. Great guy.
AFX currency company. Stuart Holmes was a sponsor. He fancied coming and had connections that could lubricate transport, let's say.
Right, yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, good one.
So yeah, got there. So it's 2 hours in the taxi. So yeah, 3-hour drive to London, 14-hour flight, 2-hour drive to Rio, 26 minutes before the race, 25.5-minute sprint from where we got dropped off.
Wow.
Stuart Holmes didn't make it.
No.
Had to take his shoes off. Not only missed that final, missed the next one as well because he was that far behind. I think I set a record. I'm not sure what it is, but I set a record from the taxi drop-off to the swimming pool and got there sort of covered in sweat to watch Fran swim in the Olympic final.
You just got there in time?
Wow. Just had the commentary.
That's a long way to go.
Because I knew the BBC, because I worked with the BBC.
You worked with the BBC, yeah.
So I was thinking I'm not going to make it. So I rang the producer who I knew was producing the swimming. So they put their phone on loudspeaker next to the commentary so I could hear. So I was running, listening to the commentary of...
And Claire Balding was on that.
Wow.
And Claire helped at your testimonial. You're good pals with Claire
yeah,
as well.
Absolutely,
she was presenting, I'm sure, that
night.
night.
She was, yes.
Jeanette and I were watching it.
Right.
Funny, it was a desperately sad story, really, because I got there and Fran came fourth by 6/100ths of a second.
So what, in layman's terms, John, 6-1, is that like like a fingernail?
Well, if I could encourage anybody to do this, get your iPhone out, get the stopwatch open, and try and stop it at 0.06.
Okay, there's a challenge for you listeners.
No, but if anybody can do it,
that's a quick reaction.
No, but you can't.
They can't do it.
It'll be 0.11.
Something.
Yeah.
Right, or maybe somebody gets 0.9 if they're incredibly nimble fingers.
Give that stat again about how.
0.06 on your stopwatch on your iPhone, and that's between first and fourth. So, I mean, as a context, talk about sport, and like even anything in life, like for the margin to be so small, is incredible, isn't it? So that's when we talked about like my story being interesting, like I'm a regional Neanderthal pig farming sports person, which
well, then you say you don't always find your own story interesting, but it is to others.
Yeah, so it was a mad time really, and then flew straight back for training.
And there was some repercussions.
Yeah, well, I think I always had a great relationship with the club that I played for, and sort of put myself out for them, and I could. And this is an unfair representation of it because it's double-edged because I probably wasn't playing particularly well. Probably was paid too much at the time.
Right.
And then I went to Rio and it all became this storm of like amplified negativity about me, about like, well, does he take this seriously? Because I was captain at the time,
Yeah.
And, these conversations about if you go, you're going to get, there's going to be repercussions. Rather than, for me, like now, we're all in business, you'd celebrate that.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
What an amazing thing to do.
You've got to go.
You're not going to Dublin for the weekend.
No, but equally, if I just go back to 2012, how conscientious John was. I mentioned that Tower of London. That was on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Now, his mum and Carol and Phil were there. All of us were there. We were all overnighting it, going back, the following morning at the 9:30 train back to Macclesfield or wherever. John got a car at his own expense.
Yeah.
At the Tower of London.
A black cab.
To go back. So he did not miss a minute of training.
Wow. Yeah.
So
how much was that?
It was £385.
He's still not got over it. With sweating as he says.
That's mental health.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's what I'm saying. So you just touched on air that actually there was a sad story to that, and the club.
Yeah, it's probably that was a disintegration of my relationship with St Helens.
With St Helens. I mean, we have to touch on, only because I had 4 of the best days of my life.
Yeah,
when John
Toronto.
moved to Toronto. I guess less proud. What a great country. What a great city, Ollie. I don't know if you've been there, but please, you and Kim and Romy go.
Love to go.
It's such a cool, vibrant
To be fair,
city.
I'm lying because I did go with school and I was like 12 and I hardly remember it, and I'm sure it's nothing like it. That was like 2000 or something. So
John,
I need to go.
You talk about an NBAism about walking tall. John walked tall in Toronto.
Really?
Soaking in like a sponge, all these different cultures, different nationalities, talk about being a foodie. He just sucked it all in. And honestly, for me, staying in with the Toronto team. It was like a halls of residence, but John had 2 bedrooms.
Right.
It was a
Rustic.
fantastic
Wow, I bet.
4 days, and even the rugby league stadium, the Lamport, was that
Lamport
right?
Stadium,
Lamport,
yeah.
yeah. It was like a festival. You know, there was beer stalls and it was watched by a younger crowd, like a student crowd. Yeah,
a different demographic.
It's Google, Facebook, all had offices around it. So it was
cool.
It was
Cool.
like the archetypal rugby league
coming.
crowd is an aging sort of northern, like get into them rugby
Yeah.
league. Sort of, whereas this was like trendy,
It's
techy.
trendy.
Oh, cool.
Saturday afternoon, and everyone was getting on it, and
wow.
it was really good. So we talked that there. How are we for time, Ollie?
Well, I think we've probably got. Well, it's 5 to.
Because we're picturing
hour, so-
people
Yeah.
going on their runs, going on their walks, listening
Yeah.
on their commute to Manchester. The Ellas are in marketing, driving
Exactly.
to Manchester. We don't want to kind of like with so much. I hope, John, we've managed to kind of deep dive into your life. Is there anything we've missed out? We've missed out, John.
No, I don't think so. Like I think I've been obsessed with a journey of identifying who I am.
Yes.
When you strip away everything, who are you? And I think that's a question everybody would do well to ask themselves sometimes, is take away everything, the materialistic things in our lives, take away all of the trappings of attachment with a job, of what you do, you know, and strip that back and ask yourself who you are, you know?
Who you are, inside.
And I think connecting with actually a really authentic version of yourself, like, and understanding who that is. You know?
You definitely don't need. And the first time I met you in 2008, you didn't even mention rugby league.
Yeah.
You do not need that.
No.
Do you like being called the Croissant Man by Gordon?
Michael Vaughan.
Sorry, I had to
talk
do
about like GCSE level like banter. Like, so Michael Vaughan, the cricketer, his way of I would say is putting people down is to attach the label of what they're doing. So somebody's the pilot, Nick's the sofa man or whatever. I'm Croissant
You'll be
man.
chocolate.
I'm Choc. The Choc.
Yeah, exactly.
The Choc. I love it. It's such changing room banter.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
good banter.
The Croissant Man. But you can wear all the different hats with pride. And I said in the intro before you came, to me, you're a great friend, a confidant, and a mentor, John. And I value friendship very much, and really appreciate you coming.
Just to give this some balance as well, before it feels like a very much a celebration of like stuff I've done. Like, I'm an incredibly sloppy drunk, right? My timekeeping's awful.
You were drunk at Jeanette's party.
Yeah. Right? Okay.
You were
all
drunk.
these things. These are the horrible things about me. I'm deeply competitive, and I can be really cutting with things that I say. I'm sarcastic, dry. I'm not like, like what I don't want to present is this.
Perfect.
Yeah, because I'm like so flawed, like in loads of ways.
I love that. I love
like
that honesty. That's amazing.
Do you know what?
How many
Actually-
people sit on a podcast and go, right, let me focus on all the
No,
negative.
but you know what? Actually, for us, getting a glimpse into kind of on the paddle court, like, we quite like seeing that, because that's a mirror of kind of like the aggressive John and stuff, and you lose a point at the end of a game and you suddenly just hit the ball to the other side, and just or come out with a bit with your, again, use the word acerbic wit, a bit of sarcasm, or
definitely.
and so we're getting a glimpse into kind of how sports people think. And I partner Vaughan all the time regularly, and he's got that amazing mental grit, mental resilience, and no, I think it's really special. Actually, I think it's really good.
Yeah. I celebrate it, and I enjoyed the things that I've done.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm also conscious not to be defined. Like, when you did the introduction as the rugby, it's cool. And inevitably what we've done is talked a lot about the rugby, and we get back to it. And I understand that is the way that, things go. But it's just a part.
Just a part. It's like me. I always say that chocolate's part of me, but it doesn't define me. It's like something that I love and that I'm passionate about, but I'm also really passionate about doing this. But I guess if this was all I did, I probably wouldn't want to let this define me, because I'd be like, there's more. But I think that what's great about doing this is that we're really allowed to kind of open up who we really are and what we're all about.
Yeah.
And I think identity's such a fascinating one. But
and I'll always enjoy spinning plates. And I think that's, again,
having different layers and different ways of expressing ourselves. And
well, maybe like in time we can get you back on, because I'd
I'd
talk
love
about
to.
how you pivoted in during COVID with half a dozen other, which has become such a success story. Sarah, my sister's like loves going at the weekend. When you're open at the weekend, and obviously the wholesale stuff you're doing. I mean, there's a whole different category. I'm just hoping. I think hopefully the viewers, listeners will get a real sense of everything
Yeah.
It's not just a rugby league podcast.
Absolutely.
About your favourite try, your favourite teammate, which I probably could get, Paul Wellens and
yeah.
stuff like that. But, I really feel like we've gone into the uncharted territories.
Yeah.
I've found it
really inspirational.
I've learned more about you. I've absolutely loved it. You've been an amazing guest. I cannot thank you enough for coming over today because I know you're a very busy man. So
No. You have to say that though, first guest. How socially awkward would it be if you went, God, that was underwhelming.
That was painful.
Wasn't it?
The pulling teeth.
We're doing a Jerry Springer final word after, obviously, to top and tail the thing, but it will be positive. Have you got time for breakfast in our cafe bar afterwards, or do you have to shoot off?
I'm spinning plates today.
Got other plates to spin.
Yeah. Right, we'll leave you to it. But thanks again, John. You're a legend. Thank you so much indeed.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. See you next time.